Hello, inmates, and welcome to the Cellblock Scorch Week 242B. This is Bones, and I'm recording as the winner of this week's Scorch. This week's prompt was given by Red, and it was the worst of all thriller tropes. Egregious every other paragraph flashbacks to an event that either had nothing to do with the story or too much to do with the story. And can I just say how incredibly rude this prompt is? Red deliberately, explicitly prompted something that she, without a doubt, hates to read and thinks is a dumb way to write, and said in the prompt that the event we're flashing back to doesn't have to do with the current story, and was like, alright guys, do your best. Man. I have some more to say about that after, but for now, I will get on to the reading. Since there are, of course, several flashbacks here, I will mark those with some kind of sound so it's clear. The Scorch is called Alone. Everything in the silence felt so incredibly loud. His half-breaths were labored gasps. Near silent swallows, the gulping of a desperate man. The thudding of his heart, a beating drum. Too loud in the empty house. The should-have-been empty house. When Kabir was 8, he had been left alone in a field. He didn't remember how he'd gotten there, or why, just that his parents were gone when he woke up. It was strange how calm he'd been, looking up into a sky too blue for such an ominous experience, feeling the soft green grass and hearing the pleasant hum of wildlife. Nothing wrong with the world, and yet everything wrong with the situation. He couldn't hear anything. Hadn't heard anything for a while, other than the two loud sounds of his own life. Not since Tarish had died. He had been the only one left, other than Kabir. Kabir hadn't seen what happened to him. They were hiding in different rooms at the time. But the silence had become so loud with his screams and a series of meaty thuds, winding down to groans. Then one final squelch, and silence once more. That field had been beautiful. He had spent what felt like hours there, time lethargic and everything glowing. The butterflies flew slow enough that he could follow them as far as he liked, and when he sat down, ants would swarm up onto his legs, the tickle of their tiny feet causing him to laugh. There were ants now, too, as Kabir sat frozen in terror. They avoided him this time, crawling along the ground around him, turning away from him as if they could sense something rotten. He still couldn't hear any noises. That's how it had been since they arrived. Nothing. Silence. Quiet. And then a sudden cacophony of horrendous squelching and screaming. Whatever was here, whatever was hunting them, it wasn't human. It couldn't have been. Not with the complete lack of noise it made between kills. Silence like that which had fallen with the darkness on the field hours in. suddenly, violently, not gradually like the going down of the sun. Like a light bulb had been switched off and had taken all other life with it, leaving him alone in the pitch black. Not even the glimmer of a star shone above him. The sounds of the wind, the animals, the insects had all ceased to the point that there was no indication of life around. But there was something. There was something here, even if he couldn't sense it in any way. It was lurking, waiting, getting closer and closer. The ants had disappeared in the moment he took to glance at the bare walls. Still nothing. But the sky outside was black. It wasn't that late yet. Shouldn't be that dark. There should be stars. The moon. Something. The nothing didn't last. Or it did, but it became something. Something present, creeping, pressing forward. Still nothing, but somehow everywhere on him. Still, he was strangely calm. The presence wasn't unwelcome. It was almost comforting. There was something dripping down his face. He raised a hand to it, pulling back to see his fingers dyed black. It was leaking from his eyes. But this wasn't a problem. The thing creeping still, that was a problem. The black tears, the dark sky, that wasn't what he needed to be afraid of. The sludge was pooling now, running faster from his eyes, falling hacking from his mouth, staining the floor. Footsteps now. Not something he knew. Not part of whatever this blackness was. Footsteps, and something heavy, dragging. "Let me in," it had whispered without words. Just the feeling of comfort and familiarity. The feeling that he had been alone, that his family was gone, and the field could always return to how it once had been. That he could return. That it would help him. He couldn't see the thing, if it even had a physical form. He couldn't see anything because his entire vision had been covered by the black. But his head turned towards the sound without his consent, and his mouth opened to release an inhuman hiss. And the thing in the house saw the thing in the field, and it left. It left Kabir alone in a house with 5 brutally slaughtered friends, and no one else for miles. Years ago, he had been left alone in a field. He had never been alone since.
Hello, this is Red, and I was the judge for this week's Scorch. This week's Saturday Scorch, I should say. I'm sure Bones told you all about how they hated this prompt. And if you listened to the last episode that I won, you know why I gave this prompt. But just a quick recap for those of you who didn't, or for those of you who don't remember. I gave this prompt because I read a thriller book that I really hated, and it had this trope in it where the main character was always like flashing back to this traumatic past event, and I just hated it so much. I feel mean for saying that, but you know what? Sometimes you just don't like books, and that's life. But on to Bones's Scorch. I feel like they did the best job at actually making me like it out of all of the other people in the group. Also, it didn't help that they were so vocal about disliking it. Yeah, that's basically it. I really liked the creature aspect of it. I love creature features, and I feel like there just aren't enough written creature features, but maybe I'm just looking in the wrong place. So if you want to recommend any of those, please do. But there you have it. Bones. Their piece was my favorite out of the ones I was given, and I think it just drew some really nice parallels between the flashback and the current hiding from creepy monsterness. So, yeah.
And that's all, folks. Honestly, I had no idea what to do for this. I was like, okay, it's a thriller, and I just started writing a basic thriller premise: dumb teenager being pursued by a creature in what should have been an empty house. And a few lines in, I went, okay, time for a flashback that has nothing to do with this. How about a field? A vaguely unsettling field with nothing to do with the house. And then back to the house, and then the field, and then there was some, I mentioned ants, they can be in both places. I mentioned silence, let's talk about that. But it was really just me writing two entirely different stories. I think about halfway through, I finally got some idea about how they connected, when he was realizing how dark everything was outside of the house. I don't really know what's going on in either of these plot lines. This was just a one-shot that I never intend to think about again, so I probably never will. In the end, I'm actually pretty pleased with how this ended up, but the journey there was walked with a blindfold, so I wouldn't do it again. Yeah. Let's see. My prompt for 243B was... Oh, I liked this one. It was... I don't expect you to ever feel bad about killing me, but I will make you regret it. And this... How do I explain this? I love unrepentant characters. Characters that just have something wrong with them. They're sociopaths. Or they did it for a reason and it was objectively bad, but they refused to feel bad for something that they feel like they had to do. And this line just popped into my head one day because of the idea that someone was killed by one of these characters and they're acknowledging that their killer will never feel regret for their actions, but they are determined to make them regret it anyway. And it's so good. I wanted to see how they would do it, how the different Scorchers would make a character regret something that they just didn't. And let me tell you, the Scorch that week is a doozy. It hurts when I think about it. I'm just like, oof, oh, ouch. So look forward to that. Yeah, and that's all I have. So thank you guys for listening. Remember to rate our podcast and share the episodes you like, and check out the Patreon for a bunch of extra content. I appreciate you guys, and keep those fires burning. The Cellblock Scorch is a production of Stellacore, an independent group of nerds sharing their obsessions with the world. Links to all our projects, including Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, Patreon, and Ko-Fi, can be found on our link tree, posted in each episode description. Follow us on Tumblr or Instagram to see the prompt of the day before the episode drops, and a quote from each Scorch the day after. If you would like to support our creative endeavors, you can give a one-time tip to the Ko-Fi of the writer of your favorite Scorches, or check out our Patreon. There, you can access the Scorches and episode transcripts for free, or sign up for Spark level support for $5 a month to gain access to our embers as well.